Hi, this is Tina Powell, host of In the Suite, where I sit down with top women leaders and some of the biggest names in the financial services and the wealth management industry. Together, we'll discover some of their best secrets and top strategies to grow a great business, build a strong brand, and lead teams in the 21st century. I hope you'll enjoy hearing their amazing personal stories of triumph, trepidation, and transformation in hopes of becoming better leaders ourselves. The time for you to lead is now, and you're in the suite. Lori Lustberg is a certified financial planner and certified divorce financial analyst at Pathway Financial Advisors in South Burlington, Vermont. She's also a friend of mine and someone I've known for nearly 40 years. Her heart is ginormous, and she's one of the most caring, compassionate, and smart women you'll ever meet in the financial planning profession. As a financial planner and guide, Lori helps people clarify their goals and values and envision the life of their dreams. She then crafts a financial plan to support that vision and provides the necessary support along the way to deal with life's inevitable curveballs. Through her personal and professional experiences, Lori has witnessed the power of financial planning to transform lives. Lori is also passionate about working with women facing a life change, such as divorce, widowhood, a career shift, empty nest, or retirement, who seek to become financially empowered and take charge of their destiny. Lori also holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in psychology from Burlington College and a JD from Vermont Law School. Prior to joining Pathway, Lori was a divorce mediator specializing in financial issues. She's a prolific freelance writer and a frequent presenter on taxation on financial issues to professional organizations, including the Vermont Bar Association. She also serves as co-president of the National Association of Divorce Financial Planners. Lori is co-author and editor of the book Divorce and Separation, A Practical Guide to Making Smart Decisions, Vermont edition, and a contributing author to Living Together, Separating, Divorcing, Surviving During a Pandemic. And one of the many gifts that you'll discover about Lori is her intuition and the incredible path she has taken to become a financial advisor with a focus on divorce. Lori's own personal journey is testament to her devotion and passion to helping other women, especially women in divorce, going through the most difficult transitions of their lives. It took Lori nearly 10 years to graduate from college after what she describes to be a windy road to get where she is today. But more often than not, it's the road less traveled that leads you right into the suite. Wow, I am so excited to be in the suite today with Lori Lustberg. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Tina. I'm so excited to be in the suite with you.
Oh my God. So you guys are probably like, what's with Tina today? And I want to give a little bit of the backstory. It's so funny. It's so funny how our paths cross. And Lori knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give you all, it's a spoiler alert here. Ladies, for you in the suite today, here's the spoiler alert. Lori and I graduated from the same high school. We graduated from the same high school in the same year, the same class, the same town, Tenafly High School, class of 1984. And I even dated your brother for a very short time, but that's not why we're here to talk about. But fast forward 36 years, and we're working in the same industry, and I'm fangirling you on Twitter, and I'm looking at all of your stuff and on LinkedIn, and wow, who could ever have imagined this moment right now, Lori?
Not me.
It's crazy, right?
I'm just sitting here pinching myself because as much as you fangirl me, I fangirl you at least as much.
My God, that means so much. That's so gracious of you.
I'm so inspired by you and so impressed with the woman you've become since that day we graduated in 1984.
And it was 36 years ago, and 36 years has a really incredible way of just, a mentor told me this years ago, and he's like, Tina, as you get older, time speeds up. And it does. It does speed up. I'm grateful that we're here today, Lori, because even right now, I mean, we've lost members of our class, and it's COVID-19. So I feel that especially appreciative that we get to reminisce a little bit right now, and that you and I are here and we're working in the same industry. And I think that our paths are very unique. And I look at your path. It's a path that I couldn't have worn, though. I mean, you are a certified financial planner. You are a certified divorce financial analyst. You have a Juris Doctor degree, JD from Vermont Law School, cum laude. That's actually one thing that we shared together. We both graduated cum laude. Mine was in undergrad and yours was in law school. Mm-hmm. And you also spend time working as a divorce mediator, a judicial law clerk. And earlier in your career, this was so extraordinary. Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about this. Working as a legal intern for the Honorable Ernest W. Gibson III, an associate justice in the Vermont Supreme Court. Wow. So, and I do want to mention where you are right now. So you are a financial planner at Pathway Financial Advisors, and you are based in Burlington, Vermont. So why don't we start there? The compare and kind of contrast. You were really smart in high school, and you took a lot of honors courses that I wasn't in, quite truthfully. And we took different paths to be here. Why don't we start there? How's life been since Tenafly High School, class of 84?
That's quite a mouthful, quite a summary, and quite a question, because actually what you're asking me is, how have the last 13,000 days of my life been?
Unbelievable.
It's been a journey of many ups and downs and twists and turns and unexpected synchronicities and miracles and deep, dark depressions. And I'm just so grateful, as you said, that you and I are here today and that I'm here at Pathway Financial Advisors in South Burlington, Vermont, living my dream of helping other people make it through difficult and wonderful financial decisions and just learning to live the life of their dreams. I took a long and winding road after high school. It actually took me 10 years to graduate from college.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So what happened? How describe that journey then?
There were a lot of personal challenges during that time, and I made a lot of different decisions about my life. I went to Tulane in New Orleans for 1 year right out of high school, and then I dropped out after a year and ended up moving to New York City and living a somewhat bohemian life, trying to make it as an artist. And I ended up going to massage school and becoming a massage therapist and taking some college courses here and there and working 3 jobs at a time to make ends meet. And so I eventually made my way up to Vermont, where I decided to finish up my college education, got a degree in psychology, and then decided I wanted to go to law school and learn the law.
It's incredible that you just mentioned that psychology. I want to just pick up on that. We had Kate Healy, managing director from TD Ameritrade, and she said that 17% of advisors have a psychology degree.
Wow.
I almost think wow, that number should be even more, because psychology and financial decision making and just financial stewardship in general is so, it's uniquely tied. I feel like it's the same side of the coin.
Very much so. And I don't think that's necessarily been the case traditionally in the financial services industry. I think that in the last 10 years or so, there has been a move toward merging the fields of human development, human behavior with financial planning. And I completely agree with you. There are so many psychological and emotional implications around finances that the two seem to blend together perfectly.
Do you also too see a difference in the way that your clients want to speak about their own issues and their own money? Do you see that people have been more willing to share? There's been more of a willingness to share, but then there's this vulnerability because as you're sitting across from your advisor and you might have a lot of your life in place and financially you could be doing well, but inside you could be a total mess.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The way we've always operated our firm and our relationships with clients is to have that be an area of openness and a safe space. And we're finding now much more interactivity in that regard and much more receptivity. And even among my personal connections, my friends, my family, I'm finding there's the exact word you said, the vulnerability. We're all realizing that we don't have as much control as we've thought we have had until COVID-19 hit, and that we are really only here for a short time, whether it's 100 years or fewer years than that. Life is very short and we are very vulnerable, and people do seem to be able to tap into that part of themselves now more than ever.
And I feel that we're so fragile.
We're so fragile.
We're so fragile.
And we need each other.
Yeah. We can, even just being able to see your face right now and having this discussion just makes me feel a little bit, a lot better about my day. You're a mom too, right?
Yes.
Yes. And you have a son.
Yes, I do.
You are able to approach your work and that conversation in a way that you understand and you get it.
Yes. Yes. That's why I'm here. Yeah. It's my life experiences, my inner experiences, and my outer experiences that have brought me to this place in time. And it's these kind of conversations and these kind of connections that bring my life meaning.
Well, let's talk about how you got here, because you didn't start here, right?
Right.
Where you are right now, I'm looking at you and I can tell that you're absolutely in line. You are doing what you were meant to do. And like me, we both kind of think you and I kind of share that, hey, we didn't get here early, maybe as early as we wanted to, but it was by design. It was by intentional design. And if I had the chance to relive our high school years, I might have said to you, hey, Lori, why don't you and I start a financial planning club or investment club? What do you think about that? You started in law. It looks like your career took an intentional pivot from law, but when you started law, you look like you were really, really into it. So kind of bring us back. I want to trace Lori Lustberg a little bit through your journey, because I know that people listening right now in the suite, no journey follows a single path, and that there are ways to get in this industry, and the path might seem a little bit hard. The
path, you said looks like it was an intentional pivot from the law. For me, consciously, it was an unintentional pivot, but I am very spiritual as a person, and I think a lot of things have been put in front of me that I didn't necessarily plan or ask for. So I graduated, I'll tell you a little bit about my story, graduated from law school in 1998. And my plan was to work my way up the ladder and be this kick-ass person, this woman who just changed the world through the law and through my brilliance. And there was a lot of pride and intellect there. And then I ended up with a surprise pregnancy. And it'll be 20 years ago in a couple of weeks that I gave birth. Oh. And my plan was, okay, I can do this. I can be the perfect mother, and I can still be an attorney, and I can have it all. And I ended up in a very deep postpartum depression for quite a long time. And it was very hard for me to do anything but what I had to do, which at that time was just be a mother. That's all I had the energy for. And even then, I don't think I had a lot of great energy for that. And so I got away from the law and became a stay-at-home mother, and was a stay-at-home mother for 10 years when my marriage fell apart and I went through a divorce. And at the time, I had no understanding of finances and no understanding of the divorce process, even though I was an attorney. And I was left with a big house and a car and 4 dogs. And, and I don't mean left like my then husband just walked out and left me. But I mean, this was my experience, was that all of a sudden I had all these enormous responsibilities and I was on my own basically for the first time in my life. So
scary.
It was very scary. And I thought, I can either choose to be a victim here and stay in this place, or I can start to learn about what it takes to run a life and to run a financial life. And my ex-husband and I went through a mediation, and the process was, for lack of a better term, magical. And I said to the mediator, I need to find a role in life, and I don't want to go back to the typical law scene. And so he mentored me in becoming a mediator.
I saw that.
It was incredible. At the same time, I started working part-time for a financial planner, just doing administrative work. And I ended up learning about financial planning. And that's when I decided to get my CDFA and become a certified divorce financial analyst and a divorce mediator. And I ended up having a business where I would help people going through divorce sort out their finances and sort out their difficulties and their conflicts, because that's what I had gone through myself. And I'm going back to that person that I was before I had my son, and that driven lawyer that I saw myself as. It was actually a miracle that this all happened in the way it did, because it allowed me to grow into this person who now listens to her heart and her intuition. And I use my intellect as a tool of my heart and my intuition, rather than to ignore my heart and my intuition, which was how I was living my life before. So a little bit more to the story. After I got my CDFA, I decided that I absolutely loved the financial planning aspect of it, because it really is a healing profession.
Wow, that's so incredible what you just said. It's really a healing profession. You're the first woman in the suite to say that, and it's an incredible, powerful statement. It
is. It's an incredible, powerful statement, and I'm imagining that your other in the suite participants would agree with that.
They would, and nobody's articulated it like that before, which is why I'm at a loss for words. I've always said that financial planning professionals are on the are clergy-like, and and the services that they perform and what they do for people. So I didn't mean to cut you off. It's a great way to frame up the conversation. So yeah. So as you were saying, when it is a healing profession, and you came to that realization,
yes,
after you had gone through, you became a mediator, the certified divorce financial analyst, yes, the CFP, you started administration to get into the profession. And then when did you make the decision from the CDFA, the CFP aspect of it? When did that become so important?
I would say it was a few years ago that I started really longing for a deeper relationship with people than I could have in dealing with divorcing people. When you're dealing with divorcing people, you can go deeply and have a really healing impact. And then after 2 or 3 sessions, or however many, it's goodbye, and they go on with their lives, and you never see them again, and you never hear about them again. And I started really longing for that longer term relationship with people, and for knowing that I was having an impact on people's lives throughout their entire lives, and not just at this one isolated point in time where they're going through a very difficult trauma. So that's when I decided to pursue financial planning as a profession rather than just the limited divorce. I still do both, but I love the longer term relationships that I have as a financial planner.
So as a certified financial planner, certified divorce financial analyst who has also been a mediator, I'm just curious why, because mediation also too is, I would think, and you yourself went through it, and I went through mediation as well. And you're healing part of the wounds that naturally happen as a result of a separation, but then also too, you're empowering 2 people to now embark on a new journey and new part of their life. Why not stay as a mediator? You're still performing incredible work on behalf of other people, still helping them, still healing them. Why the decision not to stay in mediation? I'm just trying to compare and contrast the decision to work on the financial side of the equation as a planner versus a mediator.
I see what you're saying. I still get to act as a mediator. I just don't call myself a mediator. Working with couples in financial planning, even if it's not divorce, there's often conflict and there's often challenging conversations. And the mediation skills that I learned and practiced as a mediator help me as a financial planner. And when I'm doing divorce work for couples, the mediator is always there. The mediation is always there because the financial conversations are among the most difficult conversations. So it's those skills that are just inherently there rather than hanging out a shingle and saying, I do mediation. It's just something, it's a part of me that comes with me in whatever I do.
And as you started to learn more about money, in the same way that I did, I was clueless as money, investments, and then you started to learn it from an academic perspective, and there was a lot of rigor in that. And what you went through, especially earning these 2 certifications back to back, that is a feat in itself. What was the biggest aha moment that you had?
it's being able to step away and looking at the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. It's mm-hmm. not just the investments. It's not just the risk management. It's not just the college planning or the estate planning, or none of these decisions ideally can be made in isolation. So your financial picture it's much deeper and broader than any one piece that any one individual may have expertise in. And particularly when it's your own life, we all have our own blind spots. So just pulling back from the microscopic view to look back at the macroscopic view can be a huge aha moment.
I think even some of the conversations that you can have with your advisors, the pandemic has put so much strain on family relationships right now, and that they're predicting, and this was an article in financial planning that I just saw, that they are predicting a tsunami of divorce. And so you're obviously working with clients right now. There are even people listening to this podcast right now that are like, oh yeah, that's me. I learned a lot through this pandemic, and my life is too short to be unhappy and to feel sad and to be in a position that is not serving me, and that just doesn't align with me and how I want to live my life. So what's your advice to those couples right now? How do you start to, I guess, make a plan to contemplate divorce, whether or not it's for you or not? We're going to get into some of the books that you've written, and that's probably a good way to start. But my direct question is, do you start talking to your advisor when it's like a thought in your mind?
Well, the problem with that is if you have an advisor as a couple, mm-hmm. and you're wanting to get divorced, but you're not completely in alignment with your spouse, even if you are, your advisor has an inherent conflict of interest there. So I would say it's a great idea to talk to somebody who knows the financial aspects of divorce, but what I'm about to tell you may really surprise you. I would recommend talking to legal counsel as a starting place. Not because you're thinking of going a litigation route or because you want to make sure that you're strategizing against your soon-to-be ex, but just so you know what the landscape in your state is like. What are the reasonable bounds of things you can expect? What to even expect from the process? So you can buy an hour of an attorney's time. At least here in Vermont, most attorneys will sit down with you for an hour and just give you a consultation and tell you what it's like. And if they're more holistically oriented, if they're more humanistically oriented, they'll even be a great sounding board. Not to say they'll act as your therapist, but there's a reason they're called legal counsel. So divorce has legal, financial, and emotional ramifications. And a lot of people will call me when they're thinking about getting divorced and say, I need to know what my finances are going to be like. I need to know. And I can tell that they're coming from a place of fear and reactivity because it's so new and it's such a traumatic thing to contemplate that I'll often send them to legal counsel first, just to get a sense of the parameters of what to expect and what to think about.
That's a great recommendation. So seek legal counsel first, and ideally someone that has a style that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. Is that just like Googling, or any tips on that, on finding the right person?
It would vary state by state, but there are a lot of collaborative attorneys who are specifically trained in the collaborative divorce process, which is a more holistically oriented process. There are mediation-friendly attorneys who will work in alignment with and in conjunction with a mediator. It might be a matter of Googling and just asking your friends, and then looking on maybe some mediation websites, some collaborative divorce websites, just to get a sense of who falls into which bucket. There are attorneys for every different style. And for some people, the litigated divorce, that you need to protect yourself, is the way to go, because there are a lot of cases of abuse or domestic violence or financial exploitation, things like that where people are not on the level playing field, and there's a power imbalance. And in those cases, to try to mediate, to try to come together, is often going to be even more harmful than to go the litigation route. So figure out what your circumstances are, and then really try to find the person who resonates with that.
And who's the person that resonates with you? What do you notice a particular subset of your clients, that they all fit a certain type of profile that just happens to occur naturally? I
personally try to stay away from the highly litigated cases, the cases where people are pitted against each other. I've worked a lot in that area of conflict, and for me, I find there's so much negativity, and the trauma is so heightened, and people are not in a place where they're receptive to, or it's even appropriate to try to hear the other person's point of view or talk things through. So that's not my bailiwick. I work a lot with more mediation-friendly attorneys, collaborative divorce attorneys. I'll often work with couples or individuals who are working on the divorce themselves and assembling their own team. I like to work from a growth perspective and help people grow through this process and learn from it, and not stay stuck in the conflict or the trauma. Those are the types of attorneys and cases that I gravitate towards.
And when you're not busy providing counsel, financial advice to those particular women, you have also too managed to co-author 2 books.
Yes.
And one of them being the Divorce Book Vermont. And it leads into my next question. And I do want to say, and I love the title, Divorce and Separation Vermont, divorcebookvermont.com. We'll have it in the show notes. Mm-hmm. It is how we handle the difficult times. This is what I love, the quote that you put in the book. It is how we handle the difficult times that define us as people. This book will help you find your way through. And in the book, you have those different sections, 8 different sections of the book. So I'd love for you to give us some of the highlights, and then also tell us how does divorce from a legal perspective, how does it vary state by state? Are there huge differences, or is it more subtle than that? Like, why not just write a book about a divorce? Or there's certain things in Vermont that's way different from New Jersey, which is where I live, which thankfully I'm not getting another divorce.
Yeah. Divorce is very variable state to state. The laws regarding how property is divided in a divorce differ from state to state. There are three general types of states: community property states, where each party has their own separate property, whatever they brought into the marriage, and then whatever they kept in their own names is excluded from the marital estate, and then the community property is divided exactly 50-50. The other type of state is equitable distribution, and most of equitable distribution states will also exclude the parties' separate property, but then divide the rest of it equitably according to various factors that are defined by state statute. Vermont is what's known as a kitchen sink state, which is a subset of equitable distribution, which means everything is included. And then the factors, everything, including the kitchen sink, is
I get it. I was like, the light bulb went off.
I saw a little laugh come across your face, and I thought I'd back up into that. And then the statutory factors determine how it's divided, how the property is divided. But not only is there variance state to state, there's variance within different court systems within the state. So, for example, in Vermont, the lower court, the trial court judges have a wide amount of discretion. And the cases tend to vary as to how they come out and why they come out certain ways. So there's not a great deal of predictability. And we only have one appellate level court, which is the Vermont Supreme Court. And so if you want to appeal because you don't think you got a fair deal, the Vermont Supreme Court gives the lower court judges a lot of discretion. So the likelihood of getting something overturned on appeal is not that high. So that's a property division. And then alimony is done differently among the states. It's kind of all over the place.
I thought that was done more on a case-by-case basis. But what I'm hearing from you is that there's an overarching principle, a legal principle that needs to still be abided.
There are general legal principles that can then get fleshed out from case to case. And the general, yes, which is why there's a divorce book Vermont, but there's a divorce book for I think there are about 4 other states that have come out already. And the hope is for all 50 states for a divorce book. New York, divorce book, New Jersey, because things are so different. Some of the general principles are the same, like what you should think about in terms of your children's development and how you're going to share parenting decision making. So those kind of things will be similar from state to state, book to book, and then how the IRS deals with different items of property and income is also going to be similar because that's a federal rule.
And so in the book, Divorce Vermont, you have 8 different areas.
Right.
Can you give us some of the highlights of the book and zone in on first?
The overarching principle of the book is really the quote that you read distills a lot of the essence of the book. Your divorce is your own. And how you do your divorce is defined by you, largely. And you can make certain decisions that will guide the process in different ways. So it really is a roadmap for decision making. There are a lot of questions and workbook type questions for where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? And if you could walk away with the divorce of your dreams, what would that look like for you? So there are those bigger picture questions, and then there are more practical sections that outline the four main ways of getting divorced, which is sitting around the kitchen table and doing it yourself, going to a mediator.
Yeah, I see those billboards.
What's that?
$99 divorce. I see the billboard.
Exactly.
$199.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. But for a lot of people who don't have the money to do it, and at least in Vermont, we have some excellent resources that can help you walk through the process yourself. So it is a possibility.
So that's one. So that's the first one.
Yeah.
What's the second way?
There's going to a mediator and having someone help you have those conversations and narrow down what your decisions are and help you create that roadmap. There is collaborative divorce, which is each person hires an attorney who's specially trained in the collaborative process. And there is often a financial neutral involved. And if there are children involved, there will be a therapist to help the couple work out a parenting plan. So it's a team approach. And at the same time, each party someone has their back. The attorney has their back in the end, but they are also specially trained to help the couple essentially see each other's point of view and to work through issues together. And there will be team meetings where everybody comes together and talks through the issues and comes to a resolution.
Didn't Gwyneth Paltrow make that popular, that whole collaborative divorce? Didn't she help to bring attention or awareness to that?
I can't remember if it was collaborative divorce specifically, but I know she did really work really hard and have an amicable divorce. Mm-hmm.
I think if I'm hearing you, Lori, that don't pick the method, but get a visualization and be intentional around what that journey looks like. And then once you know that, then that will define the method, right?
That's a great way to put it, Tina. Yes. Yep.
So then you also wrote another book. You're co-author of Living Together, Separating, Divorcing, Surviving During a Pandemic. Over 70 leading mediators help you deal with the loss of income, lack of accommodation, if you can and if you can't. This is a Kindle edition. We will put it in the show notes. It's only $1.99. What a timely book, Lori.
Yes, and the lead author of this is offering it for free and asked me to make it available to your listeners for free. So I can give you his email address to send him an email and get a copy of the book.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is so generous. And I want to say that the author is Michael D. Lang.
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. Michael D. Lang, thank you so much for that, for your generosity in helping our listeners right now get through a really, really hard emotional time. There's been just so much volatility and just change in people's lives, never mind their portfolio. So a thank you to you, Lori, for initiating that for us. So walk us through what are the book sounds very engaging. It certainly has a provocative and timely title.
Yes.
And by the way, if you want the book, just email me, tina@csweetsocialmedia.com, and we'll make sure to get it in your hands.
Thank you, Tina. This book, it just blows me away. It came together so quickly. Michael's one of the leading mediators in the country and the world, and he's written several books on conflict resolution. And he gathered 70 of his colleagues, including myself, and within, I believe it was a 3-week time frame, had a book.
Oh.
And everyone, each contributor is coming from their own perspective. So my contribution is on what to think about your finances right now. Others are, how do you live? How do you make it through when your spouse is in the next room and you're both on Zoom and the kids are outside screaming? And what are some ways to help you cope with that? And so each one of the 70 contributors has a different perspective and a different voice. And it's a nonprofit book, and we were all just driven by the desire to give back and to help make the planet more of a harmonious, peaceful place during this very difficult time.
Yeah, I'm feeling like you're so connected to this purpose, Lori.
Yes.
That's one of the things, yes. I mean, right from the beginning when we first signed on to this episode, you're so connected. You're such a giver in this space. I love it when a practitioner puts something in writing, because what you're putting down on paper are things that are really happening right now. And that's where I think that people relate to the story, is that they can find themselves as the hero or as one of the characters in that story. You're looking at divorce through a philosophy, mm-hmm. a different way of serving and catering to that niche and that population. Yes. How is it then, if I'm on the client side of things, and I'm working with the CDFA, and then maybe even somebody that's already belonging to the Association of Divorce Financial Planners, mm-hmm. is that then a separate charge? How should a client go about vetting one advisor over another, saying, what, these services, I know that we're going to need these services. My husband and I, unfortunately, we talked about things. What does a typical arrangement look like? How much do clients have to shell out for a service like this if they're already working with a financial advisor?
That is going to depend from state to state. It's so variable. What you're going to pay here in Vermont is very different from what you're going to pay somewhere in California. But it should be based on an hourly rate. And you should have a separate and distinct engagement letter, that specifies that the relationship terminates when the divorce is finalized, or at a specific process in the divorce. And every engagement, this is the hardest thing for me to tell people up front, and everybody wants to know, is how much is this going to cost me? But
exactly. That's why I asked the question. I know it's on somebody's mind right now. They're running on a treadmill, and that's what they're thinking. Yes. How much is this going to cost?
Yeah. So I will get into it with some people, and they provide me all the homework, and they do all the background work, and they get me their documents, and they're neat and clean and tidy, and all I have to do is an analysis and get them back my results and tie it up with a bow. And maybe that's a 5-hour engagement. Other people have a lot of questions and want to go deeper into the analysis and want to run different potential scenarios, or they went to their attorney with the results and they didn't like it, so they want to come back and tweak it, or their spouse didn't agree with X, Y, and Z. So it really depends, Tina, on the particular needs and the particular situation of the individual or couple.
It goes back to what you were saying, Lori, about every divorce journey is different, and that you need to define what you want your journey to look like. And that's going to dictate the way in which you get a divorce, and it's going to dictate the amount of time that you spend working with an advisor. Obviously, if it's going to be a very cantankerous situation, that you're going to probably spend a lot more time working on it than if it's more of an amicable separation. Right. So I want to kind of bring it back to one of the things that really struck me early on in our conversation here in the suite was that you talking about growth from divorce. And I wanted to know if you could give us some tips. You yourself have been through the process. I've been through the process. And there are people listening right now that want to be empowered by that group, by a divorce, and look at it more from a growth evolution, from a knowing thyself to just really getting in tune with who they are and what they want out of life. So what would some of your tips be for someone who's a professional, you're an academic, and you've done this, you've been in the field from the legal side and the financial side. What are the tips for those women listening right now to start that growth process and feel financially empowered?
Most important foundational tip is probably going to be a surprise, but it is allow yourself to be vulnerable. Ask for help. You can't do it all. No one can do it all. You can't carry the world on your shoulders. Ask for help. Let other people carry you for a while. And that opened up so many doors for me, that level of vulnerability. Of course, there are practical tips that I have, and those in my mind are easier to follow. The harder one is to just let yourself be broken and let people know it. People want to help.
That's so deep.
People want to help, and they can't help unless you're able to receive it.
Yeah. I think we have such a hard time asking for help because we look at people through the lens of social media. I even had somebody comment like, "Oh, I see you," and I'm like, look, I have bad days just like everybody else. And I've had real struggles, and you yourself, we both have had a lot of struggles, and we've had to climb incredible mountains to get here. And the road's been really, really super difficult. And a lot of times we look at that other person and we naturally judge them, and we think like they have it all together. And on the outside or on social media, on Facebook, it might look like they have everything so perfect, the perfect family. And again, inside they might be broken. And I think it's even harder today. I'd be interested in your thoughts about that. It is harder today to admit you've been broken when you've been publicizing on social media that, hey, look at my fairy tale life.
Very, very hard. And so important for your own growth and for the growth of other people around you.
And for your own sanity and well-being.
Yes. And I have a quick little story about that involving you, Tina. Other day, I had been in a car accident a few weeks ago. And the other day I was going to pick up my car after it had been taken care of. And I got it back, and I connected up my Bluetooth, and I was going to call my mom. And up popped In the Suite. And your guest was Carolyn McClanahan, an MD and a CFP and a power woman. And I was listening to this powerful woman talk to Tina Powell, a powerful, inspiring leader. And something inside of me went, I'm going to be on this podcast on Friday. This is a podcast for incredible women. What am I doing? And I was having one of these moments of self-doubt and self-sabotage that I have so often in my life. And then I heard some voice, whether it was my inner voice or my guides or my angels or what have you, when I was doubting myself and saying, but this is a podcast for incredible women. And I heard this voice say, yeah.
And you belong here, Lori.
I heard that, and I went from completely in a place where I was not having it, was not feeling it, was not believing it, and saying, I don't fit into these big girl pants. And then all of a sudden, listening to your podcast, it just, there was some incredible validation there and some incredible support and inspiration. And I said, yes, actually, Lori, you do belong here.
I'm so grateful, number one, that you're okay. I had no idea that you were in that accident. So I'm glad that your guardian angel was there and making sure that you're okay and that you're in the suite for today. And you absolutely belong here. And every woman, it was part of the reason that I started the podcast. I look at all of you. I look at you, Lori. And again, we go back 36 years from high school. And even in researching your vitae, I'm like, wow, oh my God, this is so impressive. But aside from that, the women here who are in the suite, yes, they have achieved a certain level of, I guess, success, aptitude, recognition of varying degrees. But my fundamental philosophy is every woman here belongs in the suite because she has a story. She has her own power story to tell. And just by the very nature of you being able to get on a podcast a few weeks after an accident and tell your story is what is part of that powerful message. We need to tell that to other women. I doubt myself in the same way that you do all the time. And people don't think that. And it was so daunting even to launch this podcast. And I really pride myself on the podcast in that our guests we've been featuring women here who've never been on the podcast, who have never been on a podcast before, but yet have been in the industry for over 35 years. And when I see the reaction of women who have been in the suite before, and what it does for them. And if I could just tell you, we're here in such appreciation. There's a whole group of people listening right now that are behind me that are so grateful to you, Lori, that you shared your story. Because that's what we relate to. Not the stuff that looks like everybody's dreaming, everybody's living this incredible life, but that you were transparent, you were open, and you were real. And that's what every woman belongs here in the suite. And so I want to thank you for shutting that voice up and saying, yes, you belong here. So thank you for that. What's one of the best ways for people to get in touch with you? Because you have touched a lot of people.
I would love to hear from other women, and thank you for the opportunity. Check out our website, pathwayadvisors.com. And my email is Lori, Lori, at pathwayadvisors.com. And advisors is spelled correctly with an O.
Yeah, you want to clear up that for us. You want to clear that up. Is that a discussion for another time in the suite? The difference between some advisors spelled O and E, and there is. How about this? Ask your advisor or get in touch with Lori. So we have one last question. Yes. Obviously heard Carolyn McClanahan's answer to this. And one of the things that we are learning, and we do acknowledge that we all have had to bring that superpower, and that every single one of us doubts ourselves at one point or another, but yet there are times that you need to show up. And I love Carolyn McClanahan's answer. Yes. And I want to know from you, Lori, here in the suite, what do you wear, carry? What do you tell yourself? What helped you to walk in the suite today?
Every day I have a rock with me. I have rocks ever since I was a little girl. I've been drawn to rocks, and wherever I go, I collect rocks. I have collections in my house. I have collections in my office, and I'm always carrying at least one. And if I don't have a pocket, it's in my sock. And rocks connect me to the earth, help me to stay grounded. And what's more humble than a rock? helps me to stay humble, grounded, real, and the earth is eternal. And it helps remind me of that.
I love that. I love that answer. We are developing a Pinterest board for In the Suite, and we're putting all of these collections together. And I love it right now. I'm actually looking at Lori's rock, so you can't see it. Oh, it's so inspiring. It's so great. It's such a reminder, right, that we are connected to a purpose that's much more than ourselves. And Lori, you are that person. And thank you so much for gifting us with your presence today, your passion, all of your contributions, and how you're making the lives of women, especially going through a very, very tough time, how you're flipping the rock and leading them towards a path of growth. So thank you here for being in the suite.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Tina. I loved it.
You're listening to In the Suite, a podcast that shares amazing stories of women in business in the financial services and the wealth management industry. Our producers are Tina Powell and Kevin Hirshhorn. Our editor at large is Kevin Hirshhorn. Our content writers are Simone Brathwaite, Carmen Varner, and Tina Powell. Our research and technical assistants are Natika Upridi and Rachel Powell. In the Suite podcast is sponsored by C-Suite Social Media, a digital marketing and social media agency for C-Suite brands and leaders in finance and technology. You can visit csuitesocialmedia.com to learn more and for show notes from today's broadcast. And thank you so much for listening and subscribing to In the Suite podcast. Please let us know how you just enjoyed this amazing episode with Lori Lustberg, and share your thoughts on LinkedIn and Twitter, #InTheSuite. I would love it, and it would mean so much if you left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this amazing episode with Lori Lustberg. You can follow her on Twitter at Lori_Lustberg, LUSTBERG. And always, if you would like to share the name of a successful woman in the financial services we should interview, please send it to me at tina@csuitesocialmedia.com. I thank you again for listening and subscribing to In the Suite.